What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you can hear me well. Audio's good. Make sure to like the video if you can, if you're just tuning in. I'd appreciate it. Good morning, Oki, Muhammad, Sal, Romer, Ryan, Emmanuel, Wolf. Good morning, Harris, Lucas, Bruce, Will, Dwayne, or Dewan, I'm sorry. Artemis, Maddie. Good morning, everybody. Emmanuel, as far as my music playlist. I can give you one of them. I listen to a bunch of different music throughout the session, so it's kind of hard to give you one. I know you've asked that before. Most recently, what I've been listening to, I can share that if you would like. If you can, just like the video before we get started here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Luke, Igor, Tom. Good to see you. James. Crazy Eddie, good morning. Sweetness, good morning. Colony. Thank you, Sal. I appreciate it. Kevin. My bot is a little sensitive, so. Alright, Emmanuel, here is the YouTube playlist, at least what I'm listening to currently. For the most part, I never listen to music that has words. It's usually just for focus. If you can like the video, I'd appreciate it. We're at about 50 likes. If we can get up to 100, I'll get started here in a second. Mr. Win Too Much, yo, good morning. Did you guys have a good day yesterday in the PM if you were able to trade? I understand if you weren't able to, but at least in terms that you have a breakthrough in terms of looking at price. I think my daily log, personally, I think it was great in terms of narrative and understanding what creates a high probability setup, what creates a high probability model, what creates a good fair value gap to enter off of, those things. Mr. Wins Too Much, I appreciate that. Awesome to see new faces in here and hearing that. I know little by little, people that get exposed to me and at least my streams and teaching style, I think they're going to find it very unique and very beneficial to themselves, if I say so myself. Alright, so let me get started here. I'm just firing up my platform, this other one here. One was beautiful, nice expansion. Yeah, to be honest with you, I know the charts are not up, but I don't know if I find today really that high probability. I'll give a few reasons for that. And I'm fine if I don't do anything today. Again, for those who say I'm way too patient and I wait too long, well, you can now see why it's for a particular reason. I don't need to do a lot in order to make money. And you don't need to do that either. So, if you've been asking, like, if you've been tuning into the streams the last 2 weeks, like, man, you know, he's super patient, very picky. I don't take that as an offense. I just want you to all understand why I'm doing that. And I hope you can clearly see that through the daily logs, what I've described yesterday and last night. What I'm anticipating, what I was looking for. Like when those things align, especially through even yesterday's PM session trade, it's like that's what you should be waiting for. That's what you should be capitalizing on, those type of environments. And not just pushing every single day just because you feel the need to trade, or somebody on social media tells you that you can trade every day in every condition, because it's simply not true. Nor do you need to do that. So let me switch over the charts here and let me know if you can see it. So just let me know if you can see the chart, and then I'll get started here. All right, so what did we do yesterday? And what's on the board for economic news drive events today? What creates a big volatile day? Well, it's going to be a news event driver. Do we have that today? No, we have nothing. What is it coming off of? CPI. What does large range days typically lead to? Small range days, consolidation, seek and destroy. So I have to be aware of that going into today, especially when the daily time frame, I'm not completely certain on really where we want to drive towards. So with no news event drivers coming off of CPI with a large range day, it's signaling me to not really push today. And if I don't see something extremely clear, then I'm not going to do anything with it. So it's a lot of patience. I play a lot of defense. I made a tweet about it yesterday, and I think it was fantastic because a lot of you have a lot of players on offense, but you have nobody playing on defense. There's one player. There's one dude playing linebacker, and then you have a full stacked offense. So you know when to enter the market, and you know all these entry patterns, you know all these great things, but your defense sucks. And defense wins championships because if I'm able to keep the opponent from ever scoring, at least I can keep it at bay. And if my offense is semi-good, then I can still be up on the scoreboard. So it's not about sports. It's obviously about trading and about your own defense and your own trading. But looking at the daily time frame in here, if I'm just looking at basic market structure, I'm not paying attention to intermarket relationships. I'm not paying attention to SMT or things like that. We're still in a bullish dealing range. So what that means is just looking at basic higher highs and higher lows, one-on-one market structure. From this previous higher low to higher high, we dropped down into a discount. Fair value gap expanded higher. I'm not sold on the idea yet of just trying to pick a top, especially when I'm looking at the weekly and the monthly. I don't see this completely outright reversing, even though it's kind of contradicting with intermarket relationships. I see dollar index gravitating higher. Bonds and yields, those are in sync for the analysis of index futures moving lower. So I have to be careful with that. I'm curious to see today. We have this little inefficiency here, and we're basically sitting in it right now. Give me 1 second. I gotta let my dog out of my room. All right, I'm back. My dog is a pug, and it makes a lot of noises. It's extremely annoying. So this inefficiency here, it's very small. I don't see that as a huge catalyst today, but it's just something that we're sitting in currently. So the fact that we're still inside of this bullish dealing range, it's a tongue twister. I'm not going to just immediately call shorts just because we had this drop lower. That's you being in sync with at least order flow. Order flow on a higher time frame is still bullish. We're still inside of that. So I can't immediately just jump to the conclusion that I'm going short. While it's yesterday a higher probability short because it was dropping down into a discount. Again, this is working within narrative. This is working within what I'm talking about when it comes to narrative. So we just opened up. I want to see how we trade today. We're inside of, I want to go out to the 4 hour. Yesterday we dropped down to the sell side, which I annotated perfectly. Took that out. Look how immediately we reversed from taking that. We're currently inside of this SIBI here with the inversion. If this thing was going to trade off lower for whatever reason, it would probably have to do it at this point in time here. If it got above this and started treating it as support, then I would look for higher prices. So what we're going to be doing today is just sitting and watching for the silver bullet. If I don't have a ton of information, I'm not really clear, then I'm not going to do anything. I'm already up on the week. You have to think in terms of, okay, yesterday was a great day. At least for me, great day. Even on live stream, we were able to catch a trade. So if I'm already up on the week and there's something, just a mediocre setup, a mediocre bias, a narrative for the day, really nothing clear, why would I push it? Why would I give back everything I just worked hard to do yesterday? Again, that's playing defense. It's me being protective. The number one thing as an analyst is protecting your capital. It's like a bird with, its nest. I'm protecting that as much as I can. And when I see the opportunity to risk that on a valuable setup, then I'm going to do so. Some of you are just letting that shit just go everywhere. You don't care. Oh, I'll just take this setup and do this and do that. No standards. You have no boundaries. You're just doing whatever. And that should piss you off that you're doing that, because I once did that a lot too. And it'll get to a point where you're just sick and tired of taking whatever trades whenever you want, having no standards for it. It's much like having, a partner, whatever you're female or male. I mean, if you're just sleeping around with anybody, you have no standards, no boundaries. I mean, of course, you're going to end up picking up an STD because you're just doing whatever. So, to me, I'm very, very picky. I'm very, very picky. And that's for a particular reason. And people, in the chat, they get upset because I'm super patient. I play defense a lot, but it works for me. And I hope you can see that over time. You're going to be like, wow, yeah, it does. So we're inside of this 1 hour inversion. Still inside of that SIBI. Again, we're inside of that bullish dealing range. So really all we did was drop down into a discount, taking out sell side, and then rallied higher. Nick, yeah, I'm feeling on one today. If you can like the video, I appreciate it. We're only at 89 likes, so if we can get that up there, I'd appreciate it. I don't see anything in here that I would be remotely interested in. I think this is a very sloppy opening range. Matsuya, if you go over to my, just on this page here, you can see my PM session trade on NQ, and day log, I covered the trade extensively. Because I was highlighting during the live stream yesterday, the sell side here. That was my main focus. And if you're paying attention to that, rolling into PM, I mean, it gravitated perfectly to it. So I'm going to sit on my hands until I see something clear. I don't really know currently. There's too little of information for me. I think the opening range is this is super sloppy. Like if I went down to a 1 minute, I'm not interested in any of this. This is where, to me, a 1 minute is useless right now, because we're inside of a really tight range on the 5 minute, 15 minute. I don't really know in terms of the narrative and the bias really where we want to gravitate towards today. So I'm going to just chill out on a little bit higher time frame and sit here for a minute. I mean, there's really nothing currently. Quick question, is bullish S&T on the 4 hour chart, lows NQS hold any significance to you? Yeah, it could. Because, again, we're still inside of a bullish dealing range and still inside of that narrative. But S&T alone, I mean, it's just an indication. It's just a confluence. It's nothing more. To me, it's just something, if I see my model, I see an entry pattern, and things agree, and then I see S&T on top of it, then yes, that's going to support the original idea I already had. So really the main focus for me is this 4 hour structure and what we're doing in here. I mean, the SIBI and the inversion, it would have to lend a lot of support for this idea. Short explanation of S&T. It's basically when two indexes are making either higher highs and one's making a lower high. I mean, there's different combinations of it. But for bullish S&T, you're looking at the lows. You're comparing the lows of the three indexes. For bearish S&T, you're comparing the highs. And if one of them is failing to make a higher high or a lower low alongside of them, that's telling you there's some type of crack correlation. Really, all it is for me is if I see a model, let's say I see the 2022 model, so everybody knows that. If I see that, I see S&T printed on top of that, that's a good confirmation. Thank you for that, Muhammad. I will look at the RTH gap. So, yesterday I didn't pay attention to this at all, and I actually really should have. In hindsight, I really wanted to highlight this in the day log, but I didn't. But if you look at yesterday's RTH gap, we moved up perfectly into the 50% of it, which if you have a large range RTH gap, I've annotated how you should pay attention to the 50%, 25% levels of it and trade it up into it. So same thing as today. I mean, if we're bearish, this is the way you have to view RTH gaps. It depends what you're looking at for the day, but let's say I'm bearish, right? Let's say I'm overall bearish on today. I'd be looking for this entire thing to be closed in. If I am bullish, I would only be looking at the 50%, maybe the 75% to be filled in, and the last portion be left open, and then this thing to rally higher. Do you see how you're utilizing RTH gaps with your bias or your narrative? So whatever you're already preconceiving, you're matching it. And obviously sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But yesterday was a great example of this huge RTH gap. If we're already bearish, and that's my bias for the day, which it was, all I'm looking at from that entire range is I'm just looking for the 50% to be met. What do? We rally right up into the 50%, and then we sell off. So, to me, that's a really good example of it yesterday. I'm actually going to have to do it here for a second. Yeah, something like this. Look at the 5-minute time frame. This means nothing to me. This is all just slop, and I'm not going to be participating in that, nor should you. That's easy to me, identifiable. No trade. So that was the entire opening range of yesterday. See that blue dotted line? That's the 50% of the RTH gap. So if you're already bearish, you're just looking for that 50%. And where was that 50%? Right at a premium inside of that dealing range yesterday with the inefficiency. So I'm going to mark this up, and then I'm going to take it away. That way I can go back to electronic. RTH gaps can be utilized in a lot of ways, and I think they're very useful. If you get underneath it, you're still looking for lower prices. You can utilize it basically like a fair value gap, just looking for support or resistance, or alongside, like it's a confluence with your trade idea. So that's a previous new week opening gap. I'm actually going to change that to blue so it matches. Welcome everybody who's tuning in. If you can like the video, I'd appreciate it. Get the likes up there. If we can get 200, that would be fantastic. Where is this? Oh, that's new day opening gap. I need previous new week. And that should do it, should it not? Oh, that's the label. Jeez almighty. There we go. Okay. So look at the RTH gap and how we're dropping down into it. Again, I'm not really certain on what we're trying to do today. $15-minute time frame, and we rallied back up into basically this last opening portion of that inefficiency here. We rallied up into it. But there's some contradicting things in terms of the higher time frame, where the dealing range is still bullish. We have bullish S&P on the higher time frames. I'm not trying to overall sell this right away, even though we had a large expansion lower. It's how people get caught off guard really easily, especially when you had a large movement the previous day. People are jumping into the market. They think, oh, you know, yesterday was a large range move to the downside, and they're going to keep chasing that idea, and it could completely rip your head off. Now, let me go down in a 5-minute here. So we have a discount inefficiency here on the 5-minute. Again, what's the protocol for us is the silver bullet time. So I get a lot of questions on that. Yes, I think waiting for the first 30-minute range opening Not doing anything within it is going to put you in the best, highest probability spot, because it gives you a lot of information to work with. Most of the time before the open, I don't have enough information to work with. I don't really know what price is trying to do. And that first 30 minutes usually gives me enough information to work with. Like, yeah, some people are seeing this as the 2022 model that, you could be trying to go short. I personally right now I see it both ways. I could easily make a case that this thing could go higher. So by the time the silver bullet happens, I'm going to probably have enough information to see what happens. Again, this goes back to patience and just sitting on your hands and not being afraid of missing certain setups. I mean, if you're FOMOing into positions a lot, it's probably not because your fear of missing a move, your fear of the criticism that you're going to give yourself after, right? So if you see a move pan out, you're going to criticize yourself saying, damn it, man, I should have took that trade. I knew that was going to happen. You're fearful of that criticism you're going to give yourself. And I understand that because I've done it plenty of times before. So what you do is you just force the trade so you, either A, you get it right, or B, you're doing it so you don't have to, give yourself that criticism of like, man, you knew that was going to happen. Why didn't I take it? And to me, if I'm not certain on a trade, if I'm not positive on it, it's not a good sign, man. You know when you're in a good trade. If you've been trading long enough, you know if something is a good setup. You know if you feel right about it. You know when you're forcing your hand. You know that. And it should be easy to identify. It's really not that difficult to know when you're forcing your hand inside of a market. Especially if you go back and review it, you're going to be like, yeah, there was no rules to that. There's nothing that agreed with what I was looking for, but I just got into the market for whatever reason. So you need to keep track of that. How often you just kind of force your hand in the market for whatever particular reason. What up, Bruce? Good to see you in here, brother. Hope you're doing well. Something happened that's funny. I don't care about the Forex prop firm space. I mean, whatever happens there, I was already aware that thing's going to burn into the ground eventually. So I've stayed clear away from Forex prop firms for a while now. And I'd probably advise all of you to do the same. I know it's a huge discussion right now, but again, it doesn't affect me because I trade futures, and I believe future prop firms are very reliable and they're going to stay around for a long time. So it doesn't concern me. If you guys can like the video, I'd really appreciate it. Get it up to 200. Marco, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Let me do a couple things here first. So let me have a look at the dollar index, see what it's doing in here. So I really like the closure on yesterday for dollar index. If you noticed what I've been looking at, even in the execution video, I was kind of making a little comment in there, because I believe that dollar index is going to be really easy to see what happens in terms of the daily time frame. I'm looking at a market maker buy model. I've been calling that for a while now. So if dollar index, to me, if that is going to continue bullish, it's going to be hard for me to want to keep longing NQ. So I'm in a kind of contradictive state here, because we still have a bullish dealing range on NQ on the higher time frame. I still see that. So I can't immediately short NQ. I can't call a bearish bias or narrative on it. But in terms of looking at dollar index, that to me is extremely bullish. Bonds are moving lower, which agree with the idea that index futures might move lower. And then yields are moving higher alongside dollar index. So all of those are in sync. And then yesterday we saw index futures in sync. So all of it was beautiful. But The only thing that's really contradicting all of that is index futures with its higher time frame, because it's still, for the most part, bullish. So, and I know for a newer student, it's a lot to look at. It's a lot of information to take in, but it's something you cannot ignore. You have to just start getting good at it. You have to start paying attention to all of these variables and all this information. Yeah, the sooner the better. I mean, I know a lot of people harp on the idea of just not paying attention to that. You don't need a daily bias, all that good stuff. But for me, I wish somebody told me this a lot earlier and told me to start practicing it a lot earlier. So again, this is kind of the main focus point for today. Like, all of this is slop to me. I'm not trying to participate in it. We've taken out buy side. We've also taken out sell side. To me, that's a low probability 2022 model. I don't know which way it's going to gravitate. Some people are trying to shorten here right now. They see buy side taken, drop lower, shift in market structure. They're trying to short the fair value gap. Yeah, it's not even in the right time for me to do so, nor do I even find this a high probability range. On the flip side, you can see sell side taken, and you could be trying to long the 2022 model. Again, if I see both sides of the board, I'm not touching it. And then I'm not going to be upset if something moves the other way. It's, again, if it's not clearly one-sided, there's no reason to trade it. Ben, awesome, man. I appreciate that. That's really good to hear. And it wasn't my patience, it's yours, man. Everything that you do, I mean, it has nothing to do with me. I'm only just a helping hand, but you did that yourself, so. Congrats, though. Make that funded account useful. Don't blow it. I think somebody said what's my thoughts on ES? I mean, it's going to be similar to NQ. I mean, they're fairly both in sync with each other. I mean, if you look at the higher time frames on ES, NQ, and YM, I mean, it's still the dealing range and the order flow is still bullish. So it's hard for me to want to push a short on this now. Why was yesterday easy to short? Because if you looked at the dealing range, we were just dropping down into a discount. That's still working within the narrative. Roxanne, appreciate that. Ben, that's awesome, man. I mean, I do my best to, like I said, give you all my experience and the things I've learned throughout the years and try to give that all to you. And I'm happy that it's worked out for you. Like I said, if it's one thing I could say people learn from me is patience, discipline, psychology, and then higher time frame analysis, narrative, etc., etc. There are times when there's each step before silver bullet, and if you take that, you don't have to worry about uncertainty during the time frame. I mean, most certainly, but again, there's always pros and cons to your rules and your model. I mean, discipline's a bitch sometimes. So sometimes there's going to be a setup that's before the silver bullet and it was super easy, and that's part of your rule set to not trade it. But then there's other times where, on the flip side, there wasn't a setup and you would have got stopped out, and you're happy you didn't, participate in that. So you can't trade everything. You can't always, pick the perfect time when silver bullet's not going to be favorable. And I mean, that's a fantasy world. You can't live in that. So dropping off lower in here, I'm going to try to keep this RTH gap in my mind. Am I satisfied with indices? I'm not going to move to Forex. Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly set on indices right now. I would like to move back to Forex just to show it for teaching purposes. I mean, it's where I started out, and I love Forex. And again, I just don't think that it's the highest probability in the state of the world. I mean, if something's going to stay trading and be a reliable trading asset, I mean, it's going to be indexes or commodities, something that's tangible. I mean, again, if everything went upside down in the world, I mean, there's still going to be some type of futures and that's trading in terms of like corn and all that stuff, wheat, oil. I mean, shit, there's an orange juice futures contract. I mean, if I gotta end up trading an orange juice contract, I'll trade that. I don't care. If you look at the highs, at least, I mean, there's some bearish SMT. We're inside of the macro in here, so there's an inefficiency there. But I really want to go short off of it. Not particularly. And hopefully you're able to see yesterday, like engaging with something like that PM session trade I had where it's just such a large, nice range and there's a lot of meat on the bone to take off. I mean, and here all I can see to the south side is about 23 handles. I mean, that's fine, but something where I can get 60, 70, 80 handles out of a trade, I mean, that's worth my time. That's worth the investment. And I just don't know particularly if this thing's really going to trade off lower today. So it makes me hesitant to want to short it, to be honest with you. Again, what's the narrative? The narrative is still bullish. On this higher time frame, we're still bullish. So for me to try to counter that right now it wouldn't be the best idea for me. And if we trade off of that and trade on the sell side, it means really nothing to me. Okay, we're still not even in the silver bullet hour. Yes, we're inside of the macro. But if I'm uncertain really on the bias for the day, I'm not going to try to push the macro before the silver bullet. In terms of the 1 hour, there's a nice little inefficiency here. We traded up into, I forget on the 1 hour, there is this inverse, or inversion, fair value gap there. Look at the bodies respecting it. We utilized it yesterday to drop off lower. And then the remaining portion of that inefficiency here, we came up and filled it. So, even if this thing dropped off lower, we could still dip down into this inefficiency here and then expand higher. So I'm going to stay on the idea today that I'm going to be looking at longs because the narrative in the higher time frames is still bullish. So I'm going to stand on that one side. I'm going to draw the line in the sand and say, you know what, I'm going to elect to only choose to trade this one side. And it protects you from, taking, to me, unnecessary losses and spending mental capital when you shouldn't. I mean, even if price went down, you could still, if you just looked at a bullish dealing range from this dealing range low up to that high that we made today, it could simply just be dropping down into a discount to then expand higher. So to me, I don't really want to short that. That's a little bit lower probability to me. I don't want to try to short the retracement. If this thing's going to expand higher today, I'd rather just stay on side with the overall bullish narrative. And if I see it really dropping off lower, it does not want to really respect the bullish PD raise, then I'll end up looking to go short. It just depends. Sometimes things change in real time. I get enough information to change my bias, and that's part of being a really experienced analyst is being able to change your bias on a dime, and it's not through fear, it's not through emotions, it's through logic and enough information to say, all right, well, I wasn't really right on that, but it's proving itself now that it's probably a different bias, so I can just get in line with it, and that's all it is. Muhammad. I mean, if you look at the video, yeah, I made a perfectly clear annotation in the video because I knew somebody would say that to me. How come you don't utilize midnight open for premium and discount? Not judging. Because personally, it's not something I'm really utilizing. I mean, midnight open, I mean, it's cool. Power of 3. It's just not really part of my style, that's all. I've already had, this is what's funny about market maker buy and sell models is they're so subjective, and most of you, and even myself, you get them wrong. Like you can see them, unless I see something so clear, like even dollar index. Like dollar index, I can clearly see on a daily time frame there's a market maker buy model. I'm fairly certain on that. But like I've seen somebody already say there's a market maker sell model, there's a market maker buy model. That's all subjective. That's why I don't teach them, because I don't think that they're very useful for a new student. I think if you just pay attention to an entry model, like a pattern like the 2022 model, you'll participate within a market maker seller buy model without even knowing it. So to me, that's more useful. Because if you know the narrative and the bias for the day, and you see your 2022 model, you're already gonna be in a low risk buy, a low risk sell, maybe in the first or second stage of distribution on a market maker seller buy model without even knowing it. And sometimes you see a market maker seller buy model and you're so subjective on it, you see it totally incorrect. So paying attention to narrative, higher time frame, what's the draw on liquidity, and then just plugging in with time in your model, you keep it super simple. I mean, Exhibit A, if this thing doesn't sell off in here, it's a perfect example of me just staying on side with, all right, A, the time, still we're not inside a silver bullet, and B, the narrative to me on the higher time frame is still bullish. So anything that's bearish is going to get ran over. That's why I'm not shorting in here. And people overlook this, man. I mean, I can't describe enough, like, some people in here are like, oh, you only take, so little trades. It's like, think about how many trades I stay out of. Think about how many losses I stay out of that are just so unnecessary. Like, this is, to me, my younger self be like, oh, that's an okay loss. But to me now, it's like, no, it's not an okay loss. I should be clearly able to determine that I should not be taking that loss with the logic I just described. Like, it's so easy to stay out of something like that. And I'm sure a lot of you took that short. And I'm not trying to hate on you. I'm just trying to give you, older brother advice. Like, man, you don't need to take that loss. That's a stupid loss. We could, Jack, but looks like we're already expanding past that, right? So to me, if you're already terms far away from it, I'm not going to utilize it. And to me, look at the range. This doesn't scream high probability to me. I mentioned this in the beginning of the stream. Does that scream high probability to you? If I'm looking at a 1 minute, yeah, you're just seeing a bunch of movement. But to me, it screams seek and destroy consolidation, which means to do nothing. Again, it's a superpower that if you can wield it, it's going to save your ass a lot of money, a lot of mental capital being spent. I find this a lot cooler than any 90% win rate ICT model out there. And I'm trying to give it to all of you. I really am. I mean, I did this on Monday with that tight opening range. I tried to help all of you not be inside of that. I've done this plenty of times on the stream. If you compare the lows on ES and Q, ES didn't make a lower low alongside NQ. So I'm staying on side with the narrative, to me at least, which is bullish. So until I'm proven wrong, then I'm going to stay on that side. Inefficiency here, would I be willing to go long inside of this? The only thing that would make me hesitant is the range that we're in. Like, yes, the narrative is bullish today. I could see higher prices, but looking at the range, this thing could go sideways. And I'm not trying to be a part of that. So it's better for me is if I just let this go, and if it expanded higher and I can get into the market at a later point, that's fine. Because look at the range, man. This is the range that we're in. So I can't just immediately be jumping in the market like, okay, I'm just going to go long here. Being able to just elect to wait for things, and if it moves without you, again, that's a superpower in and of itself. It's a lot of discipline, man. I mean, I can't give you discipline. I can't give you that, but I can give you the experience that will help you obviously build it. And what's the protocol after a large range day? Typically, it leads to consolidation or seek and destroy. So I mentioned that in the beginning of the stream. What was CPI yesterday? A very large range day. So what can you expect today? Typically a small range consolidational seek and destroy. So I'm being weary of that. Can I explain the blue box? So that's your inefficiency here. That's your fair value gap here. If this structure here, if this made in lower low, that would be a breaker, but it's not. So I got to go out to my higher time frames here and see. Again, like what I'm trying to match with this range that we're in. Can I really see this thing expanding today? Can I really see it expand higher? Is that really an option today? Well, who knows? It may just drop off lower, and I may be wrong on the narrative. But I didn't do anything, so it's not a net loss to me. Yeah, it's a mitigation block, but I don't find mitigation blocks as high probability as obviously breakers. Breakers are a lot higher probability. I don't utilize mitigation that often unless it has something in confluence with it already, like a fair value gap, inversion, whatever. Correct, Will. Correct. Yeah. A mitigation block is when, I mean, it's the same as a breaker, but the mitigation block does not take out the sell side or the buy side. It fails to make that lower low, or it fails to make that higher high. When is the last day you took a trade that won? Yesterday, my brother. Go back to the stream. So for me in here, it would be a good option to wait for this to displace away from it, to kind of show and prove to me, all right, is this really going to move out of this range? Yeah, again, I mean, people will come in here and see if I'm taking a trade, if I'm losing. They want to watch me underneath a microscope, again, because they feel probably inefficient. They feel insecure about themselves. So, and I'm not saying that about you, Harold, but people do that. They come in here, they come on a stream, and they just pocket watch, just fine. If you see me, I'm just clicking through these time frames to trying to read here. Is it really trying to expand higher today, or are we going to be inside of this range? And I'm fine letting this thing move because I know at one point or another I could probably find an entry to get into the market. Speaking of that, I need to put this on. This down close candle here would be your bullish order block. So what did we do? We took out sell side. We're displacing higher. Again, if something's not extremely high probability coming off like a good day like yesterday, I mean, I'm not going to try to give it all back. There's no reason to do so. And yeah, if you want to see the PM session trade yesterday, if you didn't see it already, but it's beautiful. So you can see that 5-minute bullish order block there. We dipped down into it. YM's decoupled. I've been kind of putting a little less emphasis on YM the last couple days here. Just really comparing ES and NQ together. Am I going to trade the PM session in the same stream? No. I only live stream the AM. Again, to me this is like a rattlesnake type of range. It's like just shaking its tail at me. Stay away. Stay away. I don't know how else to describe it other than the things I already said and B, experience. Sometimes experience just pays. There's nothing else that, you know, I can't really give you that. It's more or less I've just had so much chart time to where like something's telling me, yeah, just stay out, CJ, just chill. It's like, all right, cool. And there's nothing really in here for me to enter off of. I mean, it's coming back into this reclaimed fair value gap, but expands higher from there. That's cool, man. It's really not an issue to me. So now we built relative equal highs up here. So we built some buy side. Drop down into the reclaimed inefficiency here. To be honest with you, Benjamin, I asked ICT about, what was that? Was that Monday? Monday he stayed out of the same opening range that we did. And then he took a trade on the PM session, I believe. And I asked him in the charter group, I said, you know, is there times when you just don't look at YM and when it's decoupled? Because it was kind of concerning me the last week to hear that YM was just completely decoupled away from ES and NQ. And he stated that he really only utilizes YM for SMT when there's like a higher time frame SMT. He said intraday sessions I'm just looking at NQ and ES, so it was kind of new news to me. I've been just paying attention to ES and NQ now, yesterday and today during the session, and just kind of putting YM to the side. So it's really what I'm reading right now. So far, it's kind of helped because for the most part, ES and NQ are always in sync, and YM's doing something completely different. So it's kind of like the problem child of the three, right? you need to look at like the range before your entries. I mean, look at this range that we're in, and look what we've done. I mean, we've taken out sell side, we've taken out buy side. Look at the delivery of price. It's not snappy, it's not quick, it's just lethargic. It's high resistance. To me, it's a seek and destroy profile, and they're hard to predict. They're hard to get right. You know, it's hard to predict a seek and destroy profile or consolidation because sometimes, you know, it'll be consolidational, kind of lethargic for a little bit, and then it'll spring out of it. And then sometimes it'll make these rapid, like this movement here was quick. And it looked like we were going to buy side, and then we're kind of moving back into it. So sometimes it's hard to see that before it happens, and it's the reason why it's the hardest profile to get right. It's the hardest profile to stay out of. I mean, there's certain things and characteristics that will teach you how to stay out of it, like I've described before, but more or less it's experience and just putting, like, in terms of risk to reward, I don't want to be inside of this. If we got up above the buy side here and I could see that we clearly wanted to gravitate higher, then I could elect to trade that. I feel like that would be a higher bet to be inside of rather than trying to be inside of this. I mean, one particular reason is CPI. If you have large range days before, that can lead to small range days, consolidation, seek and destroy. If you've taken out a higher time frame objective, you reach terminus, like you've reached a drawn liquidity on higher time frame, that can lead to, you know, price just being stale. There's a lot of things that create it. It's not just one thing or another. I mean, even looking at prior to what happened, we've taken out buy side, taken out sell side. Doesn't mean we can't rally towards this buy side, but it's an indication. Yeah, Muhammad, I would agree. Let me know if the stream's alright. It says poor connection. Will Conway, I'll be going back to yesterday's stream. There's a lot of gems on SMT and Six Sister I wasn't able to put on paper and reference going forward. Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you're here to learn, you're not here just for signals, man. You need to have a notebook out. I mean, I say a lot of things in passing that you need to be journaling, man. I mean, when I was with ICT, I wrote down every single thing that he said. I didn't care if I heard it 10 times already. I'm going to write it down again. I'm going to write this shit down so it sticks in my head. Most of the things you hear audibly, you're going to forget it. You think you're going to remember it, but you're not. If you write it down, I forgot the statistic, but you're a lot more likely to remember it and utilize it. Thank you, Jack. Mr. Win Too Much. Awesome. Again, that's not the things that I say. You have to match it with your personality. Like, for many, mentor, take it with a grain of salt. For me, that's just not a significant move. I'm not trying to downplay that move or whatever, but to me, it's just not something worth to be a part of. I mean, yes, it's 30 handles, but the range, the amount of range we're really in right now. I mean, you could, if you're in a really good trade, man, you could squeeze out 100, 150 handles. We're in some really good ranges right now. I want to be a part of a 100 handle move, a 150 handle move. I mean, I can get in here and do hyper scalps at 15 handles, 20 handles, but again, I'm spending mental capital on things that it's really not worth it. Nico, I mean, that depends on the, Nico asked, what number of points do you consider a solid trade for ES and IQ? I mean, NQ is going to be a lot different than ES. As far as NQ goes, again, it depends on what we've been doing that whole week, and because some weeks the range is super small. So if it's super small, then 20 to 30 handles in a trade, 40 is really good. But like yesterday, where we're moving 200-300 handles in a day, I mean, having a good 100 handle day on NQ that's beautiful, man. That's really nice. As far as ES, I mean, a really good day on ES is having 10 to 20 handles on ES. And then if it's small range day, going for 3 to 5 handles. Particularly, I could not care less. If this thing moved away from this inefficiency and attacked buy side like I was anticipating, I don't really care. I wouldn't have liked to be a part of this, to be honest with you. It's not like a great trade. Would have went into profit, came back, moved out of profit, back into drawdown. And it's uncertainty. I don't know if this thing's going to expand. I have no idea. I can't emphasize enough like how amazing it is to not be a part of these ranges. I've suffered so much pain being inside of these ranges. So much pain. Punch holes in walls, rip shirts, screaming because I've just been inside these tight ranges going long, short, and before I knew it, I lost 75% of my account. I mean, I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Like, if I'm able to stay out of it, it's like, man, it's such a W to me. There's a lot of questions pouring in, so if I don't get to yours, I apologize. Mr. Win too much? Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, there's no other way to really explain that to somebody. More or less just experience and time. A nice rapid movement. So do I feel any type of way about that? No. To me, that's good. I want to see this. Can we really maintain upside in here? Because if so, then I can maybe really get into this market today. I don't feel any type of way about not participating in that move. But I want to see, do we really maintain upside, or are we just taking buy side here? I mean, trying to look at upside objectives. We have this high here. And looking above us, I mean, small inefficiency there. ES is moving off higher. Same with YM, ES, and Q. It's good. I want to see, I mean, preferably, honestly, I'd rather this be left open. If anything, it's just going to ILFED it. But it's going to maintain this upside. So what I'm doing is I'm scrolling back through these and I'm looking. Again, what was the narrative today? Bullish. It's the number one important thing you need to be paying attention to. Upside here on NQ is this inefficiency. One hour inefficiency here. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to see, all right, where's price trying to gravitate towards? Where's the next draw? High here, inefficiency there. I mean, that's really nothing else for me to look at. I'm going to set a limit in here. Basically it there. My stop loss is going to go underneath the second one. Change that. Yes, I'm taking this on my other account. To be honest, I think we just barely missed that buy limit. Let me go through a 2-minute. So 2-minute efficiency in here. Yeah, I mean, just for viewing purposes, I'm not going to chase that. If it missed it, it missed it. But I do believe from here it's probably going to tear off. So sometimes with IOFED, it's, you miss it by a little bit. I'm not going to get in at a worse price than I need to. I mean, it is what it is. But you get the idea. IOFED is institutional order flow entry drill. That's when all you're anticipating is just a small 10 to 25% quick just whip into your fair value gap, and it just speeds off just like that. That's what I'm anticipating. Why? Because we've had a rapid price delivery. I'm not anticipating this large retracement. I'm expecting an IOFED and for it to rip off. Oh, bullish order block there. I'm going to cancel the buy limit, but you do understand that let's just say it got into the trade. I'm sure many of you did. So I'll still manage it the way as if I took it. So 17,870, that would be my take profit, pulling partials off up into it. You see me, I'm constantly going through these time frames. 5-minute inefficiency here. Good. If I miss my entry, dude, I'm not gonna, and if it misses my buy limit by a tick, I mean, I'm not gonna chase price. It's a level of discipline that you have to reach. I'm not gonna put myself in at more risk than I need to. I mean, it sucks, yeah, but who knows? It could come back to where I was looking at, and I get a better fill than me chasing price. YM's in sync for once in its life. That's this down close candle. I mean, threshold of the bullish order block. I mean, it could return back to the fair value gap, and honestly, I'd prefer that, but if it doesn't, it's fine. I'd rather this 5-minute be left open. So from here, we expand higher off the mean threshold. Exactly, Will. Again, I understand, like, if I was in a live setting by myself and I saw that quick reaction, I probably would have entered in at a little bit higher than the fair value gap. But I'm really trying on here. I understand there's a lot of people watching and viewing. I'm trying to set an example, right? I'm not going to set the example that you should chase price. That's just a terrible advice. It's a terrible example because people see that and they think they could do that all the time. It's like, well, no, I'm more experienced and I know when to do that versus when I shouldn't. But I'm not going to do that in front of 600 people. Again, live streaming has its pros and cons. So I do some things differently off stream because obviously I'm not being watched by 600 people. So you have to realize that as well. Like, but again, if I was off stream, yes, if it missed my buy order, I would have entered into price. So, I mean, all of you should be inside of that trade. Not, okay, I shouldn't say that. I'm not giving financial advice. It's just it's a paper trade idea. Why set the example? I mean, reread that question you just asked. Why? What would be the point of the whole live streams? I'm trying to set an example to help people. I'm not here to just make people money. I'm here to teach. That's the point of these live streams. If it comes down to inefficiency, man, I'm all for it. I'll just show that waiting is fine. So level 17.87. Nice. Okay. Here's what I would do. Let's do a little standard deviations, huh? So inverse this swing here for standard deviations. -1's there. And my eye just drew to that apparently. I didn't know that was actually there. I would prefer this to stay open. So if you look at the top of that fair value gap on the 1 minute, either we don't reach into it or we just slightly IOFED it again. It can reach into that 5 minute. I would prefer it to stay as a breakaway. That just means that there's a lot of speed. You see I'm editing that on my actual platform. You know, I need to get up and get water real quick. I'll be back. All right. Yeah, that's fine if it's stalling like this. I wouldn't be concerned. Again, patience. Have patience. If you're worried about a trade idea, it's because you have too much risk on. Like, you should have enough risk in this trade to where you're not worried about if you get stopped out. No trade's guaranteed. You can't just put on a whole bunch of risk. Yeah, of course I want it. We all want things to move quickly. I mean, yes, that indicates that you're on side, but sometimes if you're in a high resistance, like we've kind of been all day, then I have to anticipate if I'm in a high resistance liquidity run signature, it's going to take a little bit longer to move away from PD raise. It's going to take a little bit longer to deliver to my targets, and that's fine. High resistance means the price is going to move a little bit slower. It's going to keep returning back to your PD raise, to your entry, and then maybe move away from it. Are you trading your own capital or prop firm? Yes, I'm trading with my funded futures. It's a 100K funded account. What is your understanding of the significance of the first hour trading, which includes half the silver bullet timing? I mean, from my understanding, it's like once you get into the second half of the silver bullet, price can loosen up. It may just been engineering liquidity for the first hour, tripping people up, giving uncertainty, and then they rip it on the last half hour of it. Can we know what city you live in? I live in Chicago, Illinois. So yes, that got triggered. Stop loss is going beneath this 5 minute. That's the parent to the 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute. I mean, I'm only risking 23 handles for the potential reward of 50 and potential reward of about 70. Oh, Kish? No shit. Yeah, it's about 30, 40 minutes about from where I live. I'm not going to give the exact city, but I know exactly where it's at. I'd prefer this 1 minute to obviously price to move away from it quickly. I wouldn't want to see it trade through it. But we pay our stop loss to do its job. Yesterday was a good example of it. Hello from France. Hello. Bonjour. Could we enter at the FEG if we missed it? Yeah, I mean, whatever suits your personality. Nice accent. Yeah, I'm sure it's terrible. Let me make sure the stream is good. The connection's still good. That's what I'm looking at, I hope. I want to see how this 5-minute closes. I'd prefer this 5-minute closes above the FEG in here. Thank you, Justin. So there's a smaller inefficiency in here. I'd rather that be left open. Technically, this is what you'd call immediate rebalance, where you're dipping down into the previous lower high. So, probably going to get stopped on this, and do I really care? No. Still letting my stop loss do its job. I'm not going to move it. I'm not going to touch it. Obviously, that's not a good sign. It's not what you would want to see in price. But I don't make the rules here. I mean, the only thing on the contradictory or the flip side is you've taken buy side here, but I don't see a short analysis for today. I don't see that playing out. I don't see a particular reason to do so. So I'm leaning on the idea that I'm going to stick with the long bias. Yeah, I mean, I see that 1 hour structure, Jake. But again, if you look at the daily, narrative to me is still bullish, so I can't. There's nothing in here that price to me would be particularly reacting off of. Sometimes you just have to make a decision, and that's that. So there's me getting stopped out, and I don't particularly really care. I executed on my model and the idea. That's all you could ask for. I mean, to me, if I was looking at it, there's no reason for this to drop lower in my mind currently. Of course, that's in hindsight. Again, you're going to view the market differently in your own personal, obviously, view of it. So if you don't see something aligns with what I'm seeing, obviously don't take the trade or don't be a part of it. But I mean, in here, the only thing I'm looking at is there's a small portion that's inefficiency left, and we may close underneath it, but there is no reason for me to look for a short bias. Because what did we already do here? We already took sell side. We displaced higher. So yes, we took buy side in here, and I may have. We'll see. I may have put my stop loss too close, but That was enough risk for me to want to handle that. So technically on a 5-minute, if you were entering off the 5-minute, I've talked about this before, even yesterday, 3 candles make a fair value gap. So technically the stop loss could be underneath that low in there. Just that was a large amount of risk entering off of this in here, so I will have to see. Again, if it moves off higher and proves that I was wrong on my risk management, then I will re-enter the market. Again, losses are normal. I mean, I've made that very clear. It's just a transaction, man. If you get really upset over it, I mean, you're probably leveraging way too much. I know mathematically, as long as I stay on course with risk, I mean, it's going to oversee any loss that I do have. Yeah, I mean, again, Jake, I'm going to use you an example. I don't like, personally, I'm sure you don't like, I don't like the fine point printing of what I could have done right or wrong. I mean, man, I'm trading my own. Just keep the criticism to yourself. I know you don't mean that, but I get that all the time. Well, you could have done this and you could have done that. It's like, well, of course, bro. And again, if there's something in here that I'd be able to get back into the market, then I'll do so. If not, then I'm not trading. You don't see me rushing back in here to revenge trade. And compared to what I had yesterday, I mean, a 20 handle loss, and yesterday in total was about 100 handles. So again, still positive on the week. Can we trade my funded futures through TB? Yeah. It's a nasty day in general. I think it would have been difficult to be a part of this and be on side. So I'm not upset. It's not like something that was super easy. How many years have I been trading? 6 years. I think somebody asked that. I actually put that back on there. But yeah, we close underneath those. You could treat those as an inversion. But it's yes, Jake. There you go. I'm curious to see how the rest of this session plays out. If anything, I'm not going to touch the rest of today. If this was really clear to me, we really wanted to drop lower today. I mean, inversion in here, small SIBI there with this inversion coupled with it. Again, to me, I don't see, I just saw somebody, if this to me was long, they should have already done it. Should have utilized the fair value gap to move higher. Which again, you can't predict everything, you can't be perfect. Most of the time with losses, It's not monetary money that you're mad at. You're mad that you feel like you're not competent enough to be successful in this. It's like a blow to your ego. That's why trading is so humbling. It really is. You could be on a winning streak, think you're doing so well, and then immediately go on a losing streak, and it's a humbling experience. Yes, I'm not gonna enter it again. People are hilarious. All right, brother. Well, appreciate you. I don't tolerate any disrespect. So if you're gonna do that, tell me to do something. You're just immediately getting removed and blocked. This is where live streaming, man. I don't think many of you understand the difficulty of live streaming. I mean, this is exactly why I'd want to do a private group, because I know the people in here that would actually want to be part of the group are not going to be commenting a bunch of stupid shit. If you do, then you're just kicked out of the group. But in here, anybody can come in and just comment whatever they want. What's the most difficult part? I mean, there's a lot of difficult parts. Dealing with people in the chat saying stupid stuff. Trading in front of 600 people. So reacting off that, this is technically an inversion. Again, if I don't see anything else, I'm not going to trade the rest of the day. I'm not going to risk more capital. Looking at ES, the way that's trading. I'm looking at sell side in here. So right underneath that inefficiency there. I think more people think, like, they get more upset for me than I get upset. I mean, I truly, losses don't affect me. I don't know if you guys notice that. They really don't. It's not just me trying to say that to sound cool. It's like they just generally don't. Like, I can't express it enough how normal it is to get things wrong. It's extremely normal. And why would I not see this as going long? I don't even know why people would be looking at that personally. Again, that's my point of view. But we've collapsed underneath this bullish inefficiency in here. Returning back to this order block in here really means nothing to me because we've already utilized that. It could be a reclaimed bullish order block, but I personally don't see that. We've taken buy side. We failed to displace higher. We're dropping off lower. So I really wouldn't want to be pushing the long again. To me, that my idea was invalid. Uh, 1 minute, this bearish order block there. I'd really need to be confident in order to push this thing short. What I mean by that is just enough information to decide on that. Roxanne, exactly. I mean, I'm very mechanical about everything. It's alright, take a loss, cool. Stop loss, take profit, I don't move it. It's set in place. In terms of losses, I mean, you don't see me overreacting in here and trying to do something else. I mean, that's like the main key takeaways. Is you're not doing something stupid after taking a loss. It's very easy to do that. So you saw that fair value gap here, we closed underneath it. Treat it as an inversion. Are you profitable? No, I just live streamed to 600 people as an unprofitable trader. So many opinions in the chat, man. It's hilarious to it's just hilarious to watch public sentiment. Like, this is long, this is short, look at this, look at that. It's like, oh my goodness. And then you win one trade and people are like, oh my goodness, you're so good at trading. Close underneath that, be inversion. Took out sell side here. I'm liking to believe we're going to run for the sell side there. Gun in my head. Oh, Jack. Yeah, I saw that, Nico. Yeah, I mean, if I get something wrong, then I'm waiting to see, all right, what was I wrong on? Is it switching to a different, bias, and can I just get in line with that? There's no emotions. It's just me logically looking at it and be like, all right, I made a. It's not even. You didn't even make a mistake. I executed on my model. Like, you can't dodge every single loss. It's impossible. You have to execute on these things. So, I'm gonna go short here. Half the risk that I was in originally. Stop loss is gonna go above. Particularly this bearish order block here. I'd be looking at the sell side underneath here. And that would be the final trade of the day. So you have the inversion, you have this SIBI here. And what you're doing is you're aiming to make back half of your previous loss. be honest, I'd be doing this. $15-minute discount inefficiency in here. So if you're just looking at this dealing range, that's inside of a discount. So any discount or raise you can use as a take profit. What's the common theme with my entries? I'm aiming for the last 25% low-hanging fruit, basically entry. And I could reduce my stop loss above the inversion order block there, now that we've moved off. Why did I dismiss DXY? Because it's really not, unless DXY is moving in a very volatile movement way. Like right now, it's just a small range. Look at the daily candle. We haven't moved at all, so I'm not really paying attention to that. I'm only utilizing DXY when it's moving a whole ton. That's going to influence index futures. You could put it to break even, but we'll let it hit the take profit first. One partial at least. So again, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, man, I don't care about taking a loss because I know I can go back into this market and get exactly what I need. So I collapsed my live position. Like, I don't know how else to describe it to all of you, man. Like, when you have no emotions and you're so unfazed by losses, you can go back into the market with real logic and just get your money back. That's not even getting it back. It's just following my rules and my system. like it's hilarious what people say and they state. Like, think about the chat 10 minutes ago when I took that loss, what they were saying and what they're thinking about me. It's like I remain unfazed through losses, and you have to as well. I'm trying to showcase this so you all understand that it's normal. I mean, you could fully be out of the position. I'm just going to hold this thing just to particularly just make a statement, man. The ego in me wants to go off on all the people that sit here and fucking put me underneath a microscope. Excuse my language. Sorry. Thank you, Rista. I appreciate you, brother. And again, dude, you're a real G, man. Like, I can understand through your messages that you see what I'm trying to do here. Most people, they look at day to day, they look at one trade, and they're like, oh, they judge somebody. It's like, dude, you have no idea even what trading is. No idea. So again, if I had more than one contract on here, I'd be pulling off another partial. So look at this inefficiency. What do we drop down into it? I mean, that could be your final TP, but I'm going to see if I can hold out to the low, the sell side underneath here. This is the old new week opening gap, new day opening gap there. And I'm going to move my stop loss into profit, basically right above this inefficiency there. That stops me out, then I took a partial out, and I move my stops to in profit. So yeah, I know. I try to make a point for all the newer students that it's normal to take losses. It's normal to do that type of thing where you take a loss, and you didn't see me emotionally get back into a trade. What did I do? I logically was able to say, okay, I was wrong on that idea. Price is now switching. So I need enough information and logic to say, all right, can I get back into the market? Yes, there was. We're displacing through multiple bullish PD arrays. We broke beneath them. We utilized them as support. What's the institutional order flow? It's respecting bearish PD arrays. Where's my entry pattern? Where's my model? Right in here. What am I aiming for? The last 25% of the run into the sell side. And boom. I mean, that's easy peasy butter. There's no way I could have prevented the loss from the long. I executed on the model. It's the same way I executed on this. It was the same thing I entered on here. I'm just executing the rules in the model that I already have set out for me. I mean, yeah, inversions to me are they're market structure shifts or change in state of delivery in a sense, because you're seeing that it's no longer respecting bullish PD arrays and it's now respecting bearish. So it's shifting, right? It's no longer utilizing that as bullish. It's going to shift it to utilize it as bearish. Because I could have easily, with that loss, been emotionally charged up, pissed off, and I, could have been very stubborn and ego to it, and be like, I'm going to go long again. I'm going to push that long idea. But logically, if you remove the emotions, nothing was telling me that the long bias was valid anymore. So I have to switch my bias, and that means that okay, I have to drop my ego, and I have to drop my mindset that I know what I'm doing, and just say, all right, where did I go wrong? Is something just changed? Was I just reading this incorrectly? Yes. Okay, go back to the market. I mean, if you didn't get enough gems from today, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this one session could teach you a lot of information, man, if you're paying attention. If I had way more contracts on, if I had multiple contracts, I would have took off a lot more in here, and that would have been it. Why? Because we reached down to a discount, reached underneath the sell side. So for me, I'm just moving this in. I mean, my live account already took out the entire position. So I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Yeah, Ricardo. I mean, again, I know there's a lot of you in here that either don't talk, don't chat, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. It's probably the best thing you could do. But it is easy for me, man, to get caught up in the chat and look at people and what they're saying. It's not easy, man. I'm not saying it's not easy for me. I try my absolute best not to get wrapped up in it. Hit the like button if you've been enjoying today. There's a lot of chatting in here. Let me see. Turkish, appreciate that. Muhammad, yeah, I would love to see that. Apparently, that's not a thing to share images in here. So, I mean, look at the 1 hour respecting this. I mean, it's a lot of back and forth. After this, I'd just be completely done. I mean, that's it for me. I got enough to make back the loss and more, and that was off of 2 contracts. Notice what I did in here. 4 contracts. What did I do on the next one? 2 contracts. I didn't double down. I didn't do 8 contracts. I reduced my risk. So in here, that entire move was 60 handles. What was the loss? 20. So you have to, again, when you just let math and you let risk management do the work for you, you should have no fear about taking losses. That's why letting your runners win and let them run, it's going to pay you. It's going to make up for all those losses. That's why risk management, just looking at mathematics, I mean, it's easy to be profitable in this. It's easy to be profitable in even gambling if you play your probabilities right. Real money's fake. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. There's some days where to be honest with you, I'm a little too patient and I missed some entries that, you know, in hindsight, I probably would have took off stream because, again, it's be completely transparent. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of eyes on me. So I want to try to be as perfect as I can. Obviously, I can't. I mean, from what I've seen, is most definitely it's an accountability partner because ever since I've been streaming, I've never even had the inclination to even tilt or revenge trade. And that's a pro to it because there's so many people watching me. I can't do that. But if you're by yourself, I mean, that little devil on your shoulder will start talking to you. But most of the time, I mean, whatever you do in private is going to come to light in public. So, I mean, all this stuff I've practiced in private for years. But I wouldn't recommend live streaming unless, like, you've already found consistency. You already know what you're doing. I mean, even for somebody like ICT, he doesn't even like live streaming trades because it's hard mentally. I mean, you're going to trade a lot differently than you do privately. Appreciate you, real money. I mean, again, whatever. I would just say, man, it's not all sunshine rainbows. It's not all. I know people look at the numbers and they want the views and the clout and all that, but I don't do it for that purpose. I don't do it for the purpose of being the most popular streamer. I do it to teach. Because if that was the fact, then I wouldn't even talk. I would just trade. If I was just here for whatever. Definitely couldn't handle the trolls, yeah. It takes a lot of composure. Cosmo, all the respect, man. Been watching you for about a week now, and I hope to have your patience soon. As I said before, plenty of money. Yep, appreciate that. Tom, appreciate you. A little easy. Yeah, a little easy. I mean, I've done that. I have hundreds of videos of my sessions, and you can go back and just talking to yourself and the things that you do. I mean, it's funny to go back and see what you're talking about. Okay. Appreciate you, Harris. Yeah, I know. It's crazy how fast time goes by, and there's only a certain amount of people that stick with this. I mean, over the years, you're going to see in social media, the people that are the most popular right now are not going to be the most popular. I mean, there's plenty of people who just fall off throughout the years in social media and trading just because they can't handle it or they don't want to be in the light anymore. I mean, I most definitely will not be doing this. Probably a year or two from now, I will be off on my own privately. Yeah, I mean, people have said that, you can turn off the chat, which I can, but I love interacting with all of you. I mean, you all have some decent questions that I can answer and interact with and work off of to make better points to help all of you. So the chat is a pro and a con to it. All right, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting on here to see if this thing wants to drop off lower, or if it's going to hit my stop and profit. So, sorry, Tom. Have a good day. I get lost, and I don't even know if I said that. D1, appreciate you. When trading on futures prop firm, what platform do you use? Do you have to pay separate fees for the platform? No, I particularly use, it's called Quantower. It's completely free. You can use TradingView and just connect your futures broker to it, like Tradeovate. But I just have had some issues with Tradeovate, with connection issues and such. So I elected to go with this platform called Quantower. It's connected to Rhythmic. That's the broker. Tristan, appreciate that. Awesome to hear. I mean, I don't try to intentionally have a monotone voice. I mean, I guess that's just the way it comes across, which is good. Which, I mean, you should be monotone in your actions and your emotions and the way you think and speak when you're trading. It should be very monotone and just very chill. Help a Forex trader here. I mean, all the things that I'm doing are the same things you can utilize in Forex. The only thing that's really different is maybe the time. But, I mean, I've traded Forex for years. I just don't trade it currently, so I'm not going to use it. Yeah, I mean, definitely having a deeper voice as a man, I think that's more enjoyable to listen to. That's personally the way I view it. I mean, I don't like listening to a high-pitched male's voice, to be honest with you. Okie. Yeah, I know. It's a blessing and a curse not to have a girlfriend. I mean, especially with trading, man. I mean, I couldn't have extra added stress. I mean, my girlfriend would have to like be de-stressing me, if you know what I mean. I mean, I could not handle. I'm already stressed enough with trading and handling business and stuff, man. With a girlfriend, I would really need to have somebody who's just there to support me. And I know, of course, it's a perfect world, but with trading, man, it's such a stressful business to be in. All the time, I'm, thinking about shit. Please answer my question, CJ. Yeah, I can get to yours. Let me see. I would like to know when to consider DXY. So, DXY to me, like today, you see it's moving off lower, and that's an inverse correlation to what the trade idea was today. But since the movement is so small and it's not moving a whole ton, it's really not an impact on index futures right now. But if you look at yesterday and the large movement that we had, look at the impact it had on index futures. So I'm looking at the range, I'm looking at how far it moved, etc. So I'm going to take the full position off there. Boom, bada bang. We made a new low. I could care less if this thing kept trading. That makes sense to all of you. I mean, what was that? What was that run in here? 70 handles. So hopefully you're able to see what I'm aiming at and what I'm doing. I'm not trying to go for little moves. I'm trying to go for something that 50 to 70, 100 handles can provide. And if you get something wrong, I mean, again, I'm not going to go over everything we just learned today, but there's a lot. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I mean, that's the end of the silver bullet. I don't care if this thing keeps trading off lower. Made back the money and more. I mean, that's it. So I appreciate you guys. I'll be live stream tomorrow if you're new here. Like, subscribe. I will be live tomorrow at the same time, 15 minutes before the New York Open.